This season of What's Her Name is sponsored by the Women's History Initiative at the Utah Historical Society. Utah women's history is so much more than you think. history.utah.gov/women. And by our patrons, Kaylee Brown, Kim Hokinson, Bree Smith, Robin Brown, Carrie Gilbride, Courtney Boise, Monique Harris-Pixato, Bree Alto, Skylar Collins, Cornelia Weiss, Jan Elise Cannon, Heather Justin, Chantel Oliver, Maria Sanchez, Amanda Gilmore, Jill Harrigan, Michaela Frew, Valerie Jacobson, Heather McKinnon, Jamie Lang, Sarah Mikado, and Caitlin McTaggart. Thank you so much for being our patrons. We couldn't do it without you. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month to help make more episodes happen.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Olivia.
In 2008, archaeologists in Valencia, Spain, just a few miles outside of Seville, made an unprecedented, history-changing discovery.
Ooh!
They unearthed a completely unique, unbelievably ornate tomb, 5,000 years old, containing the Copper Age burial of a clearly very important person.
Wow.
It's a megalithic burial, so it has stone structures, chambers and corridors highly decorated with red pigment on all the walls, incredibly beautiful, completely unique artifacts, grave goods, ivory ornaments, a large flint blade, an elephant tusk, a full elephant tusk.
Whoa.
Pottery, ornaments, all kinds of completely unique, never before seen or even imagined grave goods in a Copper Age burial.
That is every archaeologist's dream.
Yeah, I mean, this is the find, right? This is a once-in-a-lifetime.
Indiana Jones level.
Yeah, this is the rest of your career rolls out in front of you. Nothing like this tomb had ever been found anywhere in Iberia, in Europe, or, frankly, the world. This was such a big discovery, it made the archaeological and the popular press. And because of the unique ivory artifacts found inside the tomb, the person who was buried there was dubbed the Ivory Man.
Ivory Man.
Research and work continued on the tomb and nearby areas for the next few decades, and archaeologists were able to draw several very fascinating conclusions. First of all, this was clearly a very powerful and important man, a leader who was not only well respected and revered in his time, but also continued to be revered and honored for generations and maybe centuries after his death. He was clearly a member of an elite. He had power and influence on a grand scale. Hypotheses abound, analysis continues. And then, in 2023, the archaeological team decided to look a bit deeper into this burial by using a brand new technology only recently developed.
Tell me, they sent a tooth to a lab.
They sent a tooth to a lab.
Yes! Yay.
And when the results came back, they were unequivocal. The individual in this tomb had no Y chromosome.
Yay!
Therefore, according to at least our general modern understanding of sex typing, this was a woman.
Wonderful.
Pandemonium.
Oh.
The most important burial in Copper Age Iberia was a girl?
Ivory Lady. Is that what they called her?
She's an Ivory Lady. Obviously, I, of course, immediately knew this is someone we have to do an episode on.
Yeah. Fun.
So let's do that, shall we?
Let's do it.
Ready, set, go. I'm Olivia Mickle.
And I'm Katie Nelson.
And this is What's Her Name?
Fascinating women you've never heard of.
My guest today is Dr. Marta Cintas Peña, a professor of archaeology and prehistory at the University of Sevilla, and one of the archaeologists involved in both the original dig and the continuing analysis of research of the Ivory Lady.
Amazing.
My name is Marta Cintas Peña, and I work at the Department of Prehistory and Archaeology at the University of Seville. And I'm very interested in the studies of women's role in the prehistory in the past, especially in the Neolithic and the Copper Age.
And the first person in Spain to find out that Ivory Man was, in fact, an Ivory Lady. So, in Spain, there is so much interesting stuff underground in any given spot that anytime there's going to be a major construction project or they're tearing down a building or a particular building site is going to be exposed, local governments are legally required to do one of my favorite terms, preventative archaeology. Get in there before you ruin the thing. So anytime you're going to tear down an old building or build a new one, you have to give archaeologists a period of several weeks or months in between to evaluate the site and determine whether there's likely to be anything archaeologically interesting there. And then if there is, you have to give them time to do a dig and find anything that's there. In this case, there was an emergency survey a few miles outside of Sevilla where they were planning on building a big commercial center. They found a whole bunch of stone structures underground that looked like they might be something important.
The burial was discovered in 2007, 2008. There was an emergency survey at the site where it is located. And when they started the works, they discovered many different negative structures. And among these structures, there was one more special than the rest. That was this burial. And they started to do the excavation. And after that, the research group I'm part of, the Atlas Research Group of the University of Seville, started to do the scientific study of the material. And that was 2009, more or less. So when I started to work with the research group, they were already with this archaeological record. Completely exceptional in the world. Around 2013 when I was starting my PhD.
Can you imagine launching into your PhD program and here's this wildly important new discovery that's just been made a few miles from your school and you get to be in on it?
So cool. So it's like Copper Age is not, well, in the Americas, we don't use those terms at all. Very common in the EU. But even in the EU, like, we don't have very many sources at all on the Copper Age, let alone a person in an elaborate burial. So that's amazing. We have so little until you get into the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
And there's a lot in Iberia from this period.
Huh.
Although, as Dr. Cintas Peña points out, it's the Copper Age, but there's very little copper involved. In the Ivory Lady burial, there is one very small copper ornament.
Interesting.
And that's it.
Okay.
And it's clearly not the most important material, or definitely not the most prestigious material.
Okay.
Ivory is the important and prestigious material here, clearly. This discovery upended so many of the general perceptions about what the ancient world looked like, what ancient humans were like, right? And therefore, it also gives us a great peek into the kinds of assumptions that we tend to make and the way those assumptions might shift our analysis of factual physical evidence.
We get to know that she was a female just by chance. because in the framework of a bigger project, we sent many kits from different individuals. So I sent to Vienna to Fabian Kamps, the forensic anthropologist, a bunch of samples of different individuals. And when I got the results and I started to check the results, I saw that for this burial was with a female. And I said, this is not possible. It must be a mistake. It was a bit of a shock. Actually, it's not strange that the report, the first one that was done, said that it was a male. Actually, it said that it was a likely male. The problem is that sometimes after that you just ignore the likely. But the physical anthropologist said it is a likely male. Because the problem is that the archaeological method is not 100% accurate. It's impossible with this type of very bad preserved remains, because the bones are really bad preserved, really fragmented, most of them. So I called Fabian, can you please check that? And he said, no, the analysis was clear. I then talked to my colleagues here at the University of Seville, and we decided to send a second tooth, because it's important to know if this specific individual is a female or a male. So we sent a second tooth, and we wait some months, and when we get again the result, female. And it was then when we decided to publish it, because we thought it was important enough to be published independently of the rest of the individuals.
But from the very beginning, there were many indications that this burial was something really special. This burial is in the center of a huge site, a bunch of other burials all surrounding the Ivory Lady's tomb. But there is also a buffer zone, let's call it, between her burial and everything around it.
In the first place, the burial is located in the center of an area where in the surrounding area there are dozens of different structures. But there is an empty space between the burial and the other tombs of approximately 20 meters, 25 meters. So this means two things. One, that people wanted to be close to her, but that they wanted to keep respect and buffer zone around the burial too, no?
And they're buried after she is buried. So this seems to show that for hundreds of years, people know she is there and want to be buried next to her. They're clamoring to be close, but also
not too
there's
close.
a show of respect or awe or something that says, be in the vicinity, but don't encroach on her space.
So this is the first feature that is special. And secondly, it is a megalithic monument, specifically what we name a Tolos type monument.
It's a megalithic structure. It's stone, it's solid, it has rooms and corridors. When almost all of the burials nearby are negative structures, as they're called, they're
Down in the ground?
holes or pits. They are not made of stone. They're removing material to make a space, not building a structure.
So this is not a regular tomb. It's a tomb that belongs to a special individual. She was entombed between 29 and 26th century BC. We don't know exactly, but around 5,000 years ago.
The third thing that marks this as a very unusual tomb is that Ivory Lady is alone. She is the only one in this burial chamber. And that's very unusual for this area and this time period. Almost all of the burials they have found are group burials, collective tombs.
Ooh, that is fascinating.
She's the only one that's on her own.
She was entombed alone in the chamber. And at this moment, what was more common was to be entombed with more people. So what we have mostly are collective burials with many people and very frequently with commingled remains, because it's a type of burial that is reused through time. So when you excavate that, what you find is a mix of different bones from different people. So we think that this is a characteristic of individualization.
This is important for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it means there was not a mistake. This isn't someone else's bones.
Oh.
Someone else's teeth that got mixed up.
Okay.
This is definitely her, and she's the only one there. And this individualization that is so unusual seems to definitely prove something different
Some kind of
than
massive
the normal
reverence.
is going on here.
Totally. Yeah.
The fourth thing that makes this an amazing find are the grave goods.
Yay.
The material culture, the objects left in her tomb are amazing. They are unique in the world.
Some of the material culture, the grave goods, are really outstanding. We have a full elephant tusk around her head. And we have to know that in this moment there were no elephants. So it's an exotic material. It means that it came from outside. We don't know exactly where. And also a big blade, a full set of lavish artifacts.
Ornaments made of ivory and of clay. There's pottery. There's this enormous elephant tusk that is kind of curved over her head in the tomb.
That's so interesting.
Amazing, amazing artifact.
Yeah, like, is it something they placed in the grave to protect her? Is it in her hair? Is it a kind of crown? Because I can imagine fabulous hair wrapped over a giant ivory tusk that would make a person look spectacular.
I hadn't even thought about that. It is arched over the top of her head.
Oh my gosh.
So
it's in her hair.
Absolutely could have been.
It has to be.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could have been, objects are sort of placed around her in a circle.
Yeah.
It's a circular chamber.
Could be like protecting her head. Yeah.
Of course, the only things left are the durable objects, right? We don't have fabrics or wood or, things that might also have been present. And the entire interior of this burial chamber is covered in cinnabar.
Oh.
Cinnabar, a red mineral that is used in many places in the ancient world for many purposes. Here, archaeologists believe some sort of ritual meaning. This is the same mineral that
the Maya used.
Mayan queens, that Queen Xcahuil used,
Uh-huh.
that they would paint their bodies red with this.
Yeah.
It is the exact same mineral. And this cinnabar is also a very important indicator because almost all of the other tombs like this use ochre. And cinnabar seems pretty clearly more expensive, more prestigious, more prized.
And ochre is much easier to find. Cinnabar is much complicated to find. And both of them were used to make the place more beautiful, probably, and also with a sacred or symbolic connotation. And she had mercury in her bone tissues that indicate that probably she uses cinnabar through life. We think they use this raw material for different stuff. Maybe they use it then for painting themselves, for example. Maybe they inhale as a drug, we could say also too. And the fact that we think that cinnabar was a raw material employed in rituals makes us think too that probably the social preeminence was not only in political terms, but also in religious or symbolic terms. So maybe she also had some esoteric knowledge, let's say.
We know that the Ivory Lady was using cinnabar for something actively throughout her life, or at least for many years, because cinnabar also, as I think we talked about in the Ishkawil episode, gives you mercury poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very high levels of mercury in the Ivory Lady's bones.
Oh, fascinating.
The fifth thing that tells us this is an unusual burial is that we know that people continued to visit her monument and bring offerings for maybe centuries afterwards.
Cool.
They're not just being buried near her, which could indicate this is a prestigious site to be buried. They're bringing things and leaving them at her tomb specifically.
Yay.
So the tomb is 2 levels. The level where the burial is found.
Okay.
And above that is another room. Artifacts from a later date are found in that room.
Cool. Wow. So they must have built the tomb expecting offerings, creating a second space for those offerings. Like, they knew this person was going to be a big deal for a long time.
We don't know exactly how much time there was between the 2 moments. Probably 1 or 2 generations, maybe. Some people went there and they put an offering and they put a set of artifacts again in the memory of the person that they knew that was entombed below.
The most fascinating thing to me here is that we don't know how or by who or when these were left. They might have been all left at once. They might have been left by individuals over a period of centuries. It absolutely could have been a pilgrimage site. It could have been a big public ceremony, one-off. Let's leave all of the artifacts for the Ivory Lady. We don't know.
It means that they remember that she was there. And that is also a very exceptional element because the material culture deposited was very special. Again, we had ivory. Again, we have pottery. And again, we have long blades made of flint.
Interesting.
Another elephant tusk, this one highly decorated.
Huh.
And most spectacularly, a rock crystal dagger.
Ooh.
That is unlike anything else ever found before or since.
Oh my gosh.
It is unique in prehistory.
Whoa.
It's a single piece of rock crystal making up the blade.
Wow.
And the hilt of the dagger is carved out of ivory. It is mind-blowing.
How big is it?
It's like 9 inches long.
Dang.
It's so beautiful. Whatever you're picturing, I promise it's fancier than what you're picturing.
So this is a very exceptional piece, not only for the Iberian prehistory, but for the universal prehistory. Among the set of artifacts, ivory was special, even more special. So it's because of that we name her the Ivory Lady.
This season of What's Her Name is sponsored by the Women's History Initiative at the Utah Historical Society. Think you know Utah history? Think again.
The Women's History Initiative highlights Utah's dynamic history makers. 8 sovereign nations in Utah since time immemorial.
Pioneers, explorers, immigrants, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and dreamers who have made a home there ever since.
If you want to know more fun facts about Utah women or see all of what the Utah Historical Society has to offer, take a scroll on their website, history.utah.gov.
I'm going to go with that she's a goddess figure, religious figure in some way. More than just a revered ruler, but somebody, that level of offerings after they've died. I'm going to go with that lady has supernatural power that they think is still in effect even after she's died. So I'd say she's a goddess or prophetess or some such thing.
Well, funny you bring that up.
Oh.
Because therein lies, I think, the most interesting rewind or reanalysis of this tomb, because in general, when a female burial is found with lots and lots and lots of stuff and is clearly important and honored, the go-to explanation for a long time has been priestess, religious.
Yeah, sorceress.
Clearly she's a religious leader of some kind.
Yeah.
Not because there's anything inherently religious about the object she's buried with.
Yeah.
But just, I think, as a gut reaction of women can't hold other power. She couldn't be a political leader. She couldn't be a warrior. She couldn't be a wise figure, right? It must be religion, which it might well be religion. And as Dr. Cintas Peña points out, separating out religious power and political power and cultural power is absurd.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that those were that separated out. But because the Ivory Lady was thought to be a man, just by virtue of
the stuff,
the importance of the tomb and the stuff, it was assumed this is someone who held a large amount of power and did something so important individually that they continued to be revered and honored for generations afterwards.
Yeah.
Because this is the other really important thing that we can know about Ivory Lady, and there's very little we can know, right? But what we do know is that whatever it was that caused her to be revered and powerful, she earned it on her own. This was not hereditary power, inherited influence. This was something she did to acquire power. And we know it for a few reasons. We know it because, at least as far as we have ever found evidence, Copper Age Iberia did not have hereditary power structures or hierarchical systems of influence and power and wealth.
We don't have any evidence, at least. Maybe there were some difference between people, but not very important difference. So we have to imagine also a situation like this.
Obviously, lack of evidence doesn't mean it wasn't, but there's certain things that do in archaeology tend to indicate hierarchy by heredity as opposed to something else. For example, all the baby burials are roughly the same. So you don't have families whose babies are more important and are getting lots of grave goods. They're all the same. And so we know for that reason that it was unlikely that she was just a powerful member of a powerful family.
And also we have that she was a local individual. So she was not apparently from abroad, from a distant place. But at some point when she probably was a young person, she acquired this status. Maybe she started to be listened by the people. Maybe she was good to give advice. Maybe she was good to organize people or to deal in conflicts, or probably she has some characteristics that made her recognized by the people that live around her. So the position that she had, she earned that through her life.
We also know it specifically about her because teeth.
Teeth? How?
More research.
Oh,
they analyzed her teeth for various things, right?
Okay.
You can tell the peptides that tell you chromosomes.
Yeah.
You can also find, as we know very well from several episodes, diet, what they ate.
Yeah.
And from her teeth, we know that she had a very bad diet as a child.
Really?
She had severe malnutrition. She was not elite as a child. She was not wealthy. She was undergoing pretty severe hunger.
Oh, that tells a story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I mean, this is not a privileged princess. This is a scrappy young girl
Yeah.
who did something that made her important and beloved
Wow.
and revered. She earned her place of honor.
Ooh, I love that.
Maybe she was a brilliant diplomatist. Maybe she was exceptionally kind.
Yeah.
Maybe she was wise. Maybe she had some special ability. Maybe she could see the future.
Yeah.
Maybe she was a visionary. Maybe she had a disability that marked her as special, as somehow important and honored.
Maybe she brought peace to the land and
Maybe she
united
brought
everyone.
peace to the land. What else do we know? We know she was between 17 and 25 years old.
Okay.
So not very many years to make her stamp on society.
Our Ivory Lady died at some point between 17 and 25 years old. So it means that she died very young. We consider that quite young. Probably she was already an adult, completely an adult woman. We don't know if maybe she already had some children. She could have had children. We don't have any archaeological evidence of that.
But 25 years is not a super long time to gain a reputation as a dispenser of wisdom or knowledge. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
But this isn't, an ancient grandmother who has dispensed wisdom for generations.
So do they analyze all the grave goods, like searching for clues of what it was that she did?
We can't analyze the grave goods because they're unique.
Ah! How fun.
We can't compare them to anything. Nothing else in the world has these same grave goods.
That's wonderful. Have they done DNA on her?
Yeah, they've tried DNA. At this point, there's not recoverable DNA.
We tried to do that, but many problems linked to the contamination and the preservation. And the colleagues sent many samples to a laboratory, and unfortunately, none of them gave results.
Who knows in the future? Technology improves, we may be able to. But for now, we don't know.
Well, at the end, she died between 17 and 25. So something happened. Otherwise, she wouldn't have died.
We know that this site had already been an established site. Humans had been there for a long time by the time she was living there.
Okay.
What we don't know is if they were living there or just coming there. We don't know if it's a residential site or this is a ceremonial site where people come every year to have a festival or do ceremonies or bury their dead.
But wherever it was the case, permanent or not permanent, they already were agricultural societies and they already knew how to domesticate animals. So the type of life was, we could say, similar to someone that maybe lived in the Middle Ages. The life was the same, not a very big difference.
The pace of daily life, the patterns, labor, would have been quite similar to the people who were living in medieval Valencina. Your main occupations are getting enough food, creating enough shelter. And it would have been quite similar to life 3,000 years later.
Fascinating. I was just looking it up on the map. It's not on the coast.
It's not on the coast now.
Oh, was it?
It was then.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
Which,
hence trade and...
yeah, so access to ivory is easier.
Yeah.
You're not that far from Africa in southern Spain.
Yeah, not at all.
In fact, There's a point in Andalusia in southern Spain where you can see Africa on a clear day. But that is an excellent point, because what else have we learned from her teeth? Not just that she ate badly as a child, but what she ate specifically.
Okay.
We know that she had mostly a terrestrial diet. So like wheat, animal proteins, what we eat now, probably more or less here too. And this is also interesting and intriguing too, I think, because at this moment the sea was very close to Valenciennes. So anyone would think, well, if these people were living so close to the sea, why there is no marine diet?
Oh, interesting.
She's not eating fish. She's not eating shellfish. Why isn't she eating shellfish? Especially if there's malnutrition. This abundant source of food is right there.
Yeah.
But she's not eating it.
Oh, the whole of Ireland did that for an age as well, and we have no idea why. Like, they're on the sea and there is no seafood being eaten.
Yeah. And it's
Of course,
baffling.
the assumption is religious, but...
Religious or
some kind of taboo, or...
Sharks, or it's gross, they just didn't want to.
Fascinating.
Or...
This is something I think we have to explore. I mean, because I think it has no sense, but it's something to explore in the future.
Although I will say, I mean, I've never understood who first looked at a lobster and went, that looks like something I should eat. We know she had pretty serious mercury poisoning.
Wild.
That may also have led to
Death.
visionary status or unusual behaviors or abilities, right?
Uh-huh.
They obviously didn't know they were giving themselves mercury poisoning. And other than that, we don't know much at all.
Fun.
Part of that is because Valenciennes is a very populated area. You can't just run around excavating under people's houses.
Yeah.
It's tantalizing to think what might be there. Maybe the Ivory Lady is completely unique.
Maybe.
Maybe there's 20 other Ivory Ladies underneath the parking lots and the apartment buildings.
Okay, that's... Dig up the county, Spain. Dig it all up. Tunnel.
Her grave also just teaches us a lot about the Copper Age as a whole. The narrative, again, at least the public, non-scholarly narrative, has been men were in charge all the time, right? Men were the boss, men were the leaders, men were the warriors, men were the kings and the chiefs. Men held all the positions of prestige or leadership or honor. There have been no Copper Age male burials discovered anywhere across Iberia that have anything even close to the level of prestige and artifact and glory as the Ivory Lady's burial.
Well,
nothing.
That is something, isn't it?
It's certainly challenging what we thought was happening.
I mean, but how many Copper Age burials? I mean, have they found like 3? You
lots.
know, like
they've found lots of burials, and they found lots of male burials.
There are many male burials, of course, or many other female burials, but there are no male burial that can be comparable to this one. There is one male burial with some special elements, we could say, but it belongs approximately 27, 26, or 25 centuries BC, so some time after that.
Well.
Now again, what's under the mall?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Another reason to dig up the whole county.
Yes. But it does certainly appear that, as far as the evidence we have, she was the most important person in Copper Age Iberia.
Have they found other elite women burials?
Yes, in fact.
Really?
In fact, just a few 100 feet away.
What?
They found a burial of 20 individuals, also clearly high status, lots of fancy grave goods. In fact, their grave goods bear striking resemblance to the offerings left at the Ivory Lady's tomb.
Really?
This burial dates post the Ivory Lady by decades or generations.
Okay.
And, of course, as soon as this was found, the assumption was these are the people who are leaving the offering, right? These 20 individuals here are the ones leaving those very similar offerings.
Okay.
I bet you can guess what we're going to find out about these 20 individuals.
All women?
They're women.
All of them?
All of them that have well-preserved enough teeth to do the analysis, so about 15 of the 20.
Really? Huh.
Very close, there is another megalithic monument that we call Montevideo. That is the Mound of Lilies, I think in English. Also quite singular. And there is this monument of a corridor and two chambers, a big one chamber and a small chamber. In this big chamber, there were 20 people, all of them, we could say, for what we have sex information were remains. And when we analyze the material culture of these Montevideo Tholos, there are very important similarities between the material culture in Montevideo Tholos and the material culture in the Ivory Lady, which we think means that there was connection. And the fact that the two of them were occupied by women, we think is also remarkable because maybe there was some kind of connection between them.
And their grave goods are incredible. Ivory, ornaments, and 270,000 seashell beads. 270,000 tiny beads, each carved out of scallop shells.
But they're not eating the scallops.
They're not eating the scallops, but they're using scallop
them.
shells.
What on earth?
So they're aware of the scallops.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to the scallops.
Fascinating.
It's fascinating. Somebody did some math on how long these would have taken to make. And it was something like, even with a master craftsman making these, it would have taken about 17 years.
Wow.
So these are important people.
Fancy
These
ladies.
are people who care about them a lot and are leaving a lot of incredible grave goods for them.
Well,
now, we don't have any actual direct evidence that they had anything to do with the offerings at the Ivory Lady's tomb. They're nearby, but all we have is that their grave goods look like the same quality and style and etc. of the offerings left at the Ivory Lady. Again, who knows what's out there? Maybe these are just the grave good quality of that time and anyone could have done it. But this 20 women, high status, does immediately make the narrative jump to, okay, religion. These are religious women, and she is some sort of religious figure, and they are, tending the tomb, revering the tomb, making offerings at the tomb.
In fact, in the interpretation, the most common one is that they were a group of religious specialists. I disagree with that in the sense that I think that if this group of people have been males, we wouldn't be explaining them as religious specialists. We would probably be explaining them as political leaders with the same archaeological evidence. So I think we need to think of that because there is a bias in the interpretation in this case. True. So I agree with the idea that there was some kind of religion stuff going on, or maybe they had also these abilities or competencies linked to the esoteric world. For me, it is unfair to think that they were simply religious specialists. No, I think maybe there were religious specialists in a moment where religion had also political power. In this case, I agree with that. It's not only the religion power or the religion position was what this person is showing, but the political position that he has acquired through religion position. So I think we need to try to understand that probably was a completely different world of what we have now. We have more or less separated the spheres between religion and politics, partly at least. But probably for them it wasn't like this.
We always have to be really conscious of and work really hard to unpack all of the modern baggage that we are adding on to archaeological evidence, that we are making assumptions based on our filters of who people were and what these things mean and who's in charge and how it works, when we don't know if any of that was part of the society that left these artifacts at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But for now, it certainly seems to be that women are the ones holding high positions, holding power, holding honor and respect in society, perhaps alongside men, but all we have so far are women.
I think a very promising case study to explore the political role of women in the past. I'm not going to say that it was a matriarchy, but I think it's a line to explore at least. And we need to consider trying to research a wider area to look for more of these murals or to know exactly what is going on.
Well, this is contemporaneous with the Minoans, who are equally,
Yeah, I mean,
possibly matriarchal. It's not far away.
it's not far away, and sort of generally across this time period,
Mm-hmm.
throughout at least large chunks of the world, grave goods tend to be about artistry, beauty, skill.
Mm-hmm.
The grave goods in the Copper Age are not weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
They're not about violence or control, right? Even though blades or daggers are clearly ceremonial, would not work as a weapon.
Yeah, just like the Minoans.
And weapons are not included in burials.
Mm.
And as far as we've found, the prominent burials in the Copper Age are women with grave goods that are not weapons.
And there is no evidence of violence or anything like this in her body. And also an interesting thing is that there is no evidence of any material culture linked to coercion or violence either in her burial. Because one thing that is going to happen later in the Bronze Age is that metal is going to be the preeminent element to identify leaders that are going to be in a very important proportion males. And the metal in the shape of tools, but also in the shape of swords or different arrows, is going to be linked to males. Not only, but in many situations.
As we start finding more prominent male burials than female burials, there's a lot of weaponry in the grave goods. There's a lot of daggers and arrows and knives
and evidence in skeletons of violent death. Yes.
I'm not saying it's causation,
Yes.
that men in charge mean violence, but I'm not saying it's causation. It's interesting at the least.
It is fascinating. One of the great mysteries, I think.
What were we like?
What were we like?
Don't know.
Mm.
When I was in Sevilla a couple of years ago, I so desperately wanted to see all of these incredible things, but unfortunately they are not currently on display anywhere. The Archaeological Museum of Sevilla is closed for renovation.
Okay.
And The artifacts are currently in storage in a very Indiana Jones storage warehouse somewhere.
Well, when it reopens, we could go.
Yes, once it reopens in a year or two, there is going to be a whole section dedicated to the Ivory Lady and the women of Montelirio.
It's actually in the storage house of the Archaeological Museum of Seville, in a town called La Rinconada, in a big storage house. And it's going to be shown probably when the building is open. But we don't know when it's going to happen exactly. The rehabilitation of the building must finish in 2027. Not only the Ivory Lady, but also the Montelirio remains are going to be exposed. And this is going to be, I think, one of the most important pieces of the museum, together with the rock crystal blade and the elephant tusk.
Including a whole cross-section that was removed intact from the Montelirio site, with the clay, the artifacts in situ, the bones, everything. Just a big chunk of it was lifted out intact.
Cool.
And that will be on display eventually. So once it opens again, that's where you will find me. There is also another very exciting new piece of information that she cannot tell us about.
What?
But is apparently going to be a pretty big deal.
Rude.
When it is finally announced.
Well, when?
There is another important thing that we know about Montelirio photos that is going to be published very soon. But I cannot say anything about that. So maybe in 2026, at the beginning of 2026, we can repeat.
What do you think it is?
I have no idea. She would reveal nothing. But I cannot wait to find out what it is. And I will definitely bring her back for an update as soon as she is allowed to talk about it.
Cool.
And until then, the Ivory Lady is getting a little bit of her due.
Something fun. There is a high school, a secondary school very close to the place where the museum is located, actually in front of the place. And now the name of this secondary school is Ivory Lady School. 5,000 years later, it is very nice, yeah.
Hey, that's wonderful.
I love thinking about teenagers attending school, remembering that she was there, which is really rare.
Yeah.
We have many different monuments and secondary school and squares with the names of people that lived in the past. Because we have the name of these people. We have their biographies. But for the prehistory, it's very complicated to know the individual people. We have just a mass, a community, no? But we don't have the individuals. And it's also because of that I think sometimes it's so hard to imagine prehistory, no? Because you don't have names. And the fact that in this case we can talk, well, what we are doing now, no? The fact that we can talk about a specific person, I think this is very cool.
And here is an individual being remembered and acknowledged thousands of years later. She's acknowledged as a person, which is really important, I think, to help us remember that all of these people were people. She's a someone. She's an individual someone who existed in this place, was remembered in this place, and is still remembered in this place.
So many years later.
And now remembered everywhere. Huge thanks to our guest, Dr. Marta Cintas Peña. Visit our website at What'sHerNamePodcast.com for photos, links, resources, and more.
You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, where we post lots of photos each week.
Music for this episode was provided by Doug Maxwell Emmet Fenn, the Mini Vandals, I Think I Can Help You, and Chris Haugen.
Our theme song was composed and performed by Daniel Foster Smith.
Our intern is Katie Boucher.
What's Her Name is produced by Olivia Mickle and Katie Nelson, and this episode was edited by Olivia Mickle.